Well, there's a light drizzle coming down, so I'll keep the outside short, then we'll get inside this 2015 Cayman and tell you all about what's happening with the market. Ever since COVID hit, prices of used sports cars have been going up. People who have the funds to buy a sports car are out looking for something to have fun in, and that means that all of the Porsche prices have come up. So I found out today from Core Motor Cars, and thank you to Core Motor Cars here in Vancouver for letting me borrow this Cayman for the day, is that prices of Boxsters and Caymans of this era, the last of the flat six Cayman and Boxsters, going up anywhere from 10 to 20% over the last year. So this is a 2015, only 36,000 kilometers on the clock. It's a base Cayman. We'll get in, take it for a drive, and I'll tell you more about it. Well, welcome to the inside of this 2015 Cayman. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware of this, but I'll repeat it anyway. The Cayman and the Boxster share the same platform. The difference is the roof. Of course, this has a fixed roof and does not come available with a sunroof, okay? You want to have open air, then you got to go to the Boxster, which is a convertible, a soft top. Now, these cars have a lot of similarities. Both of them have two trunks. There's a trunk at the back and there's a front trunk. And these are incredibly useful cars for everyday use because you have so much storage. Unlike a 911 that doesn't have a trunk at the back, this one does, and you have a very deep front trunk, which I always describe, the best way to describe the frunk is whatever you can fit in a grocery store shopping cart is about the same size as that front trunk. So all of the groceries that you can buy for one load will fit in the front of this car. So these are incredibly practical cars for everyday use, and they're very reliable. So I'm a big fan of Boxster and Caymans, but this generation, this is called the 981, which was sold from 2014 to 2016 in the Cayman, but 2013 to 2016 in the Boxster is my favorite because it looks like the new car, which is called the 718. But they made a big change, and that is what's behind me here in the middle of the car, and that's the engine. These cars are the very last flat six cars before they went to turbo four-cylinder engines. The rest of the interior is very similar to the rest of the Porsche sports car family. The seating position to the dashboard, the steering wheel, and the dash across the sports car family is almost exactly the same. How you sit in the pedals, that is something that Porsche absolutely masters. So these cars are incredibly comfortable. You sit low and then you start this one up. This one has the 2.7 liter six-cylinder. Now let's go for a drive. So the car I'm driving today is the base model Cayman. It's got a 2.7 liter flat six. As I mentioned, different than the new cars that have the turbo four-cylinder engine. Oh, I should mention that there is one variant of the new cars that does come with a six-cylinder. That's the top GTS model with a 4-liter flat six. And that was brought back because a lot of people were like, what? Why would you get rid of the beautiful flat six? But that's more expensive. When we're comparing apples to apples, yeah, you can't get this engine. So there's a lot of people, me included, that are looking for these cars because they are the end of an era. You know, there's nothing wrong with that turbo four-cylinder in the new 718. It's actually a wonderful handling car, arguably a better handling car than this one because they did modify the suspension. But you can't replace the sound of a flat six with a turbo four-cylinder. It just isn't going to work. So these cars have become more sought after, which is one of the reasons the prices are going up. But also we had that COVID effect I mentioned at the beginning. People who are sort of have the means to buy these are looking for a fun car to drive. And that's why there's not a lot of supply. And if you find a nice one in the right color and the combination that you're looking for, the advice is to buy it and not wait. So which one do I prefer? Do I prefer the Cayman without the sunroof and the fixed roof, or do I like the Boxster? I like both of them, but if it was me and my money, I would probably just go for the Boxster because you get all the same attributes of this car, but you have, at the moment's notice, if it's the sun popping out or it's a nice summer evening and you want to go for a run for ice cream, you just put that roof down. but it really comes down to personal taste. This does feel much more like a baby 911 because of the fixed roof. So if you're a real enthusiast, if you're looking for the most authentic sports car feel, the Cayman will be the one that you want. Then there will be people that say, well, Zach, what about an S versus a non-S car? Well, it really comes down to price. If you can afford an S, it's never a bad idea to buy the more capable car that has, you know, the 911 brakes, has a bigger 3.4 liter engine, more power. All of those things are certainly beneficial. However, it comes at a price premium. There's quite a big jump from the base 2.7 that I'm driving here when you go up to the S. Now, the good news is, if you've never owned a Porsche before, this isn't a bad place to start. You can get used to owning a Porsche, what it takes, the maintenance. You know, there's definitely a commitment to owning these cars. And then if you ever want to, that price differential isn't going away. You can always move from this up to an S when you see a nice example, trade it in and make the jump up. So these cars, as we've already discussed, hold their value. In fact, in the last year, they've gone up in value. So if you want to drive this for a year or two, then you say, you know what, I want to get an S. So that price differential will always be there, but it kind of remains the same, the difference between the S and the non-S. Then the discussion comes down to, should you get a manual transmission or should you get an automatic? Well, in this generation of Boxster and Cayman, you got what was called a Pdk transmission. It's Porsche's dual clutch transmission. It's very quick. Now, this is something you have to decide in your own household because, for example, in my family, my wife can drive stick but prefers to drive an automatic. And if I bought this with a manual, then that would preclude anybody else from driving the car. So I would probably opt for the Pdk just so we could use the car and get our value out of it instead of sitting in the garage most of the time. Now, I understand for people who have never owned a Porsche sports car that they have it in their mind that I've got to get a 911. That's the car I got to have. But I've owned two 911s and have driven all of these cars, and having gone through that whole cycle, my next car will be a Boxster or a Cayman. I got that out of my system. So I'm here to tell you, as somebody that's gone down that road, if it just comes down to owning a sports car, there is absolutely nothing wrong with these, with the Cayman or the Boxster. In fact, people who have driven them all, they know that this is the best bang for your Porsche dollar. Buying one of these cars is a great way to go, especially if you're going to use it every single day. Drive it. They're wonderfully comfortable. They're amazingly practical. They're amazingly reliable, and it's a car that you can just enjoy. Well, thanks again to Core Motor Cars here in Vancouver for letting me borrow this 2015 Cayman for the day. My next Porsche will be this generation of Cayman or Boxster with the flat six engine. I think the base 2.7 liter engine is great for somebody buying their very first Porsche. Personally, I would probably opt for the S, but either way, if you've never owned one of these sports cars, this is a fabulous place to start. Thanks for watching. I'm going to do these hopefully every single Friday. Get hold of a sports car or a Survivor, and we do it here on the channel, so make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.